Imagine a young American city in the early 1800s. No clean water on demand. No safe reservoirs. Just wells that ran dry in summer, polluted rivers that spread disease, and the constant fear of fire or drought. Today we open a faucet and take water for granted. But in early America, visionary engineers, laborers, and city leaders solved this crisis with nothing but muscle, timber, stone, iron, and unbreakable determination. Today we journey back to how America built its first major reservoirs, the structures that quenched the thirst of growing cities and changed the nation forever. Along the way, we will explore breathtaking old-school construction of dams, aqueducts, monuments, bridges, and more. This is the story of how American engineers conquered water and built civilization. Stay with me for this epic tale. Let us begin at the absolute origins, in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. In the young cities of Philadelphia and New York, water was a daily struggle. Wells became contaminated. Rivers carried waste. Fires raged unchecked because hydrants did not exist. In Philadelphia, the Fairmount Water Works rose as one of the first great answers. Engineers surveyed the Schuylkill River with chains, compasses, and spirit levels. They chose a site where the river could be harnessed. Workers dug the foundation by hand, using picks, shovels, and horse-drawn scrapers. Massive stone walls were laid for the pump house. Wooden water wheels, later replaced by steam engines, lifted water into elevated reservoirs lined with brick and clay to prevent seepage. Every stone was cut by hand. Every joint was sealed with mortar mixed on site. The labor was relentless. Immigrant crews and local men working from dawn until dusk under the summer sun, fighting leaks, collapses, and the constant threat of disease. Now let us travel north to New York. The city's growth demanded a far greater solution. The aqueduct itself was a masterpiece of old-school engineering. For miles, the water channel was cut through solid rock using black powder and hand drills. Where valleys intervened, enormous stone arches and bridges carried the conduit high above the ground. Skilled masons laid courses of cut stone with precision measured in fractions of an inch. Timber formwork supported the arches until the keystones locked them in place. Iron pipes and gatehouses controlled the flow. The entire system relied on gravity alone. No pumps, only the careful calculation of slope and capacity. In Manhattan, the water arrived at the Croton Distributing Reservoir, a vast stone basin built on the site of today's Bryant Park. Its walls rose like a fortress constructed of massive granite blocks. Later, the Central Park Reservoir would follow the same principles on an even grander scale. Picture the construction sites, the ring of hammers on stone, the roar of blasting, the smell of wet earth and mortar, the shouts of foremen directing hundreds of Irish and German immigrant laborers. Many men died from accidents, disease, and exhaustion. Yet the work continued. Engineers risked their careers and their health. Political battles raged over cost. funding crises threatened to stop the project. Still the walls rose, the aqueduct advanced, and the reservoirs took shape. When clean Croton water first flowed into New York fountains and hydrants in 1842, the city erupted in celebration. Disease rates began to fall. Fires could be fought. The city could grow. The success of the Croton system inspired greater works. The new Croton Dam, completed decades later, became the tallest masonry dam in the world at the time. Its construction demanded even more precise stonework, deeper foundations, and massive embankments. The Ashokan Reservoir followed, requiring the relocation of entire villages and the creation of a vast artificial lake through earthen and masonry dams. These projects shared the same principles that defined American old-school construction: practicality, bold scale, adaptation of European techniques to American conditions, the use of abundant local stone and timber, and the relentless drive to support growing cities. The same spirit built the great stone bridges of the era, the aqueducts of the Erie Canal, and the early monuments that celebrated national achievement. Later, the engineering leap to Hoover Dam showed how far the tradition had come. Concrete poured in massive blocks, cableways spanning canyons, and a workforce of thousands living in temporary cities. Yet the core ideas of gravity, impermeability, and coordinated labor remained the same. Throughout every stage, the human element was central. Immigrant laborers, skilled masons, surveyors, and engineers worked side by side. They faced floods, collapses, political opposition, and financial panic. They overcame them through grit, ingenuity, and sheer determination. The impact was profound. Clean water ended the worst waterborne epidemics. Cities expanded. Industry flourished. The foundation of modern urban America was laid in stone, earth, and iron. As we conclude this journey, reflect on how those first American reservoirs, from the modest basins of Philadelphia to the monumental Croton system, secured the nation's water future. They stand as lasting proof of what determined people can achieve with vision, muscle, and careful engineering. Thank you for joining this epic exploration of American water engineering. If this story of grit and ingenuity moved you, subscribe, like, and share it with others who love old-school construction. Until next time, remember, America was built one careful stone, one determined worker, and one life-giving reservoir at a time. Workers dug the foundation by hand, using picks, shovels, and horse-drawn scrapers. Massive stone walls were laid for the pump house, each block cut by skilled masons and set with lime mortar mixed on site. Wooden water wheels, later replaced by early steam engines with massive iron cylinders and boilers fed first by wood and then by coal, lifted water into elevated reservoirs. Those reservoirs were lined with carefully prepared clay. Workers dug pure clay deposits, tempered the clay with water, and trampled it underfoot or with livestock for days until it reached the perfect impermeable consistency. Brick linings were added in critical sections. Every joint was inspected. Every seam was sealed. The labor was relentless. Immigrant crews and local men rose before dawn, walked miles to the site, worked 12-hour shifts under the summer sun or in freezing rain, ate simple meals of bread, cheese, and salt pork, and slept in crude wooden barracks. Embankments sometimes slumped after heavy rain and had to be completely rebuilt. Wooden pipes leaked and were gradually replaced with iron. Political fights erupted between city councils and private water companies over control and funding. Yet the work continued, stone by stone, day after day. Now let us travel to the hills north of New York. The city's explosive growth demanded a far greater solution. In the 1830s, engineers turned their eyes to the Croton River, 41 miles north of Manhattan. The plan was bold almost beyond belief. Build a dam, create a reservoir, and carry pure water by gravity alone through an aqueduct all the way into the heart of the city. Surveyors walked every mile of the proposed route across hills and valleys. They measured elevations with theodolites and levels, marking stations every few hundred feet, insisting on a gentle, continuous downward slope that would allow gravity to do all the work. In 1837, construction began on the old Croton Dam. These projects shared the defining principles of American old-school construction: practicality, bold scale, adaptation of European techniques to American conditions, the use of abundant local stone and timber, and the relentless drive to support growing cities. The same spirit built the great stone bridges of the era, the aqueducts of the Erie Canal, and the early monuments that celebrated national achievement. The impact was profound and lasting. Clean water transformed public health. Epidemics that had once swept through cities with terrifying regularity began to fade. Fire insurance rates dropped. Industries that required reliable water could now locate in the cities. The very idea of the modern American metropolis became possible only after the reservoirs were built. As we conclude this long journey, reflect on how those first American reservoirs, from the modest basins of Philadelphia to the monumental Croton system and beyond, secured the nation's water future. They stand as lasting proof of what determined people can achieve with vision, muscle, careful calculation, and unbreakable will. Thank you for joining this epic exploration of American water engineering. If this story of grit, ingenuity, and monumental construction moved you, subscribe, like, and share it with others who love the old school builders who shaped our world. Until next time, remember, America was built one careful stone, one determined worker, and one life-giving reservoir at a time.